How are we supposed to communicate with God? Are we supposed to speak to Him formally? Or is there a layout that we're supposed to follow? Or can we actually communicate with Him as if He was a friend or a father to us? I'm going to present some different verses today regarding communication with God, presenting a different side. If you Google "how can I talk to God," you're going to find a lot of different resources. There's the Lord's Prayer, but so much of it is very impersonal. And I want to present a personal, different approach to speaking with God today in this video. If you are new here today, welcome. I am Ella Dawn. I am a spiritual mindset coach and healer, and I specialize in revealing the supernatural within the Bible so you can claim your authentic self and your authentic power in God. So let's dive into it. Dive right into the verse that prompted this video today that I discovered in Exodus 33. And we see Moses, he was leading the people, the Israelites, out of Egypt. They're in the desert. They were rebelling. They were trying to worship other gods. Moses was pretty much acting as the mediator between God's will and these people and trying to keep them on the right path. And because of this, we see a very intimate relationship that Moses had with God. And it actually ends up stating in Exodus 33, verse 11, "Inside the tent of meeting, the Lord would speak to Moses face to face as one speaks to a friend." That is just, it's amazing. Like here at this time, Jesus hadn't come to this earth yet. The Holy Spirit hadn't come upon us yet. And yet we still see that Moses was able to speak to God as a friend. And we actually see him even requesting things of God in a very interesting way, as if he really was a friend and not as if he was afraid of him. I'm going to read some of this here. "One day Moses said to the Lord, 'You have been telling me, take these people up to the promised land. But you haven't told me whom you will send with me. You have told me, I know you by name and I look favorably on you.'" Now watch this here. Don't worry about actually what it's saying, but how they're conversing. "If it is true that you look favorably on me, let me know your ways so I may understand you more fully and continue to enjoy your favor. And remember that this nation is your very own people." Like, he wasn't afraid to even state, like, "Hey, remember this, remember us. Like, help me here. I need something of you." The Lord replied, "I'll personally go with you, Moses, and I will give you rest. Everything will be fine for you." Then Moses said, "If you don't personally go with us, don't make us leave this place. How will anyone know that you look favorably on me and on your people, if you don't go with us? For your presence among us sets your people and me apart from all other people on the earth." The Lord replied to Moses, "I will indeed do what you have asked for. I look favorably on you and I know you by name." Moses responded, "Then show me your glorious presence." The Lord replied, "I will make all my goodness pass before you. I will call out my name Yahweh before you." Goes on and on. What is important in here is how this was a back and forth communication. How Moses wasn't afraid to be like, "Hey, this is what I need in order to trust that you're with us. Hey, this is what the people need. Like, you've promised this. Can you help me?" Like, he wasn't afraid to get real with God. And how much can we not be getting real with God? How much can we just see him as this man in the sky and have this very formal relationship, when maybe we really need to start breaking it down and viewing it like a relationship? I want to direct us now to Judges 6, where we kind of see this back and forth over again. We see here God is communicating with Gideon. The Israelites had again revolted. This is further along. They're already in the promised land. They're fighting with other tribes. They're caving to other tribes. In Judges 6, verse 12, "The angel of the Lord appeared to him and said, 'Mighty hero, the Lord is with you.' Sir, Gideon replied, if the Lord is with us, why has all this happened to us? And where are all the miracles our ancestors told us about? Didn't they say the Lord brought us up out of Egypt? But now the Lord has abandoned us and handed us over to the Midianites. Then the Lord turned to him and said, go with the strength you have and rescue Israel from the Midianites. I am sending you. But Lord, Gideon replied, how can I rescue Israel? My clan is the weakest in the whole tribe of Manasseh, and I am the least in my entire family. Verse 17, Gideon replied, if you are truly going to help me, show me a sign to prove that it is really the Lord speaking to me. Don't go away until I come back and bring my offering to you. So Gideon then goes out. He presents an offering to God, a burnt offering, because this is again before Jesus came, before Jesus became our sacrifice. So these offerings were their way of showing their humble heart and a humble attitude towards God. So he went off, gave an offering, and then we see him here in verse 36. If you're truly going to use me to rescue Israel as you promised, prove it to me in this way. I will put a wool fleece on the threshing floor tonight. If the fleece is wet with dew in the morning, but the ground is dry, then I will know that you're going to help me rescue Israel as you promised. And that is just what happened. But then in verse 39, it says, Gideon said to God, please don't be angry with me, but let me make one more request. Let me use the fleece for one more test. This time, let the fleece remain dry, while the ground around it is wet with dew. So that night, God did as Gideon asked. The fleece was dry in the morning, but the ground was covered with dew. So we see now Gideon even communicating. He's asking, like, why have you done this? Like, why has this happened? I don't understand. I need a sign. I need another sign. Like, how much do we just, like, give up on God? And one, we don't even have relationship with him in the first place. We don't even ask him. And then we get mad at him when he doesn't help us. How can he help us if we don't have a relationship with him? And in this relationship with him, we need to not be afraid to get real, to share our struggles, to share our fears, and to ask these hard questions and not be afraid to ask these hard questions. I also want to direct us to 1 Samuel 3. Samuel ends up becoming a prophet, but at this time he was a young boy and he was serving in a temple underneath Eli. And so we jump in here right at the beginning. Verse 2, one night, Eli, who was almost blind by now, had gone to bed. The lamp of God had not yet gone out, and Samuel was sleeping in the tabernacle near the ark of God. Suddenly the Lord called out, Samuel! Yes, Samuel replied. What is it? He got up and ran to Eli. Here I am. Did you call me? I didn't call you, Eli replied. Go back to bed. So God is calling to Samuel. Samuel thinks it's Eli who's calling. We see as we go through in this verse, he keeps going back to Eli and being like, what's up? Like, why are you calling me? And Eli's like, I'm not calling you. And then Eli realizes, God is trying to call you. So he tells him, go lay down again. If someone calls again, say, speak, Lord, your servant is listening. And so the Lord calls again to Samuel. Samuel speaks with him and they have a conversation. The question is, how much might God even be calling out to you? But because of the distractions, because of your beliefs, because of your perceptions, you're not even listening. You're not even saying, speak God, I am listening, and opening up the door for this conversation. James 4, 1-3. In this, it talks about communication with God. What is causing the quarrels and fights among you? Don't they come from the evil desires at war within you? You want what you don't have, so you scheme and kill to get it. You are jealous of what others have, but you can't get it, so you fight and wage war to take it away from them. Yet you don't have what you want because you don't ask God for it. And even when you ask, you don't get it because your motives are all wrong. You want only what will give you pleasure. So in this relationship with God, why are we forming this relationship with him? Because God has a purpose and a plan for our lives. He has so much desire for us. He wants so much abundance for us. And he created all of this world, and we can have a relationship with him just to have wisdom, to have understanding, to have peace, to have love in our hearts. And this is not something that the world gives us. This is something that we can only get from God. But it starts with fixing what is on our hearts and coming before God humbly to simply know him and to start having these experiences, having this love on our hearts, so we can then spread this love to others. We can't just come to God when something is wrong. We can't just expect God to fix our problems only when something is wrong. So many people are like, why did God not do this? But where were you for God before then? And yes, sometimes God might not heal somebody. Sometimes, things do go wrong. But if you can have this relationship with God beforehand, you can have a higher peace and understanding in that situation to recognize that that is not the be-all, end-all. God has a plan, and God always turns everything for good. But sometimes we can be so tunnel vision as humans. We can have such a limited view that we don't see what that plan is. And then we're letting the ego stop us from having this relationship, when it's this relationship that will stop the ego and give us that peace. Finally, I want us to go to Hebrews 4, verse 14. So then, since we have a great high priest who has entered heaven, Jesus, the Son of God, let us hold firmly to what we believe. This high priest of ours understands our weaknesses, for he faced all of the same testings that we do, yet he did not sin. So let us come boldly to the throne of our gracious God. There we will receive his mercy, and we will find grace to help us when we need it most. How beautiful is that? Like Moses and Samuel and all these other people had this relationship with God, and Jesus hadn't even been here yet, facing these tribulations and these trials as we do. But now we have this advocate for us, welcoming us, loving on us, forgiving us, who does know what it's like, who was crucified by others, who never belonged, who was constantly hunted down, constantly fought against. And he is here wanting to develop this intimate relationship with you, to have a back and forth communication with you, to get real with you. I had said before in one of my Instagram lives, like, we spend our whole life searching for husband, a wife, a friend, to feel like we finally belong, to be accepted. But we already have that in God, in Jesus, and in the Holy Spirit. All we have to do is say, yes, I am listening, and be willing to share what is on our hearts, being able to share what we need, being able to say, hey, I don't understand, and listening for the answer. And knowing that this isn't a, solve all your problems magic genie, but it will solve all of your problems in the way that you will have the peace and understanding to get through all of your problems, along with some miraculous help, if you can have faith and simply be willing to say, God, I am listening, and to speak up. All you have learned about how to ask for what you need, how to ask for what you want in life, apply all of that to God, and be ready to watch your life unfold in miraculous wonders and have peace that transcends everything you have ever known. Thank you for watching. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Share this with your friends. Share the message of communication, of how we can get real with God, and how by getting real with God, our lives can change into a greater peace that transcends everything you've ever known. Much love. Stay tuned for my video next Monday.